All right, so following on from Alexander Usyk's emphatic victory over Tyson Fury last night, a lot of people are very happy about the result. They're very happy for a variety of reasons. Well, mainly they're happy because this is, imagine I have to say this, right? But this is a problem with boxing. They're happy that the right guy won. Imagine I have to say that because boxing has been so bad the last couple of years where in many people's eyes the rightful winner hasn't gotten the nod. And a lot of us kind of resigned. Like I personally, for me, when the fight was over, I kind of resigned myself to the Usyk's won this, but Fury's going to get the decision. He didn't. The right man won, even though it should have been unanimous. It realistically it should have been a knockout for Alexander Usyk. It really should have, but he got the decision. That is the main thing. A lot of people are happy about that. A lot of British fans have been commenting, not just on my channel, but on other channels, saying, we're from Britain, we've supported Fury in the past, but not now. We now support Alexander Usyk. We're all happy he won. There's a lot of people, you see videos of pubs in Britain, and they're celebrating the fact that Alexander Usyk got the decision. He was able to beat Tyson Fury. And why, excuse me, why is that? Where did it go wrong? Where did all this change for Tyson Fury? When Fury beat Klitschko, the perception on him at that time, because I remember that fight very well. I remember exactly, me and my friend were only talking about it the other day. We were in a pub in our local area when we watched that fight. We were a bit younger then, but we remember it well. And we were happy when he beat Vladimir Klitschko because we knew the heavyweight division was in a horrible place with Vladimir especially at the top of the throne. It needed a new lease of life, and it got that. We were so happy about it. We had this new fresh-faced heavyweight come along. He upset Vladimir in Dusseldorf, and we thought, okay, things are going to get better. They did get better, but then Tyson Fury went on his hiatus. He had all those problems. That was November 2015. He wasn't back until June 2018. But in the subsequent time, Joshua became a name. Wilder got a bit more well known and became more of a name with his knockouts. Joshua beat Klitschko. Parker came onto the scene. Andy Ruiz was making names. We were seeing these guys come through and start making names. The new crop started taking over. And then Tyson Fury comes back, and he didn't appear to be the same type of guy that he was. And I don't mean that from, physically he was bigger. Obviously he had to lose that weight. He wasn't in aesthetically as good a shape as he was pre-ban. Well, he was banned, actually. I was going to say pre-hiatus, but he was banned as well. But he got a backdated ban during the hiatus as well. But he didn't seem quite the same. He picked fights a lot different. He didn't have to fight Deontay Wilder in 2018. He could have gone with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and had a couple of fights leading to an Anthony Joshua fight. He chose the easier road of going and fighting Deontay Wilder. A lot of people forget that in 2019, the WBC were looking to match Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte. And Tyson Fury at the time said he'd fight Dillian Whyte if the diamond belt was put on the line. I don't know why, because the diamond belt really doesn't do anything. It's not even an interim title. It's just a belt. And they agreed, but he didn't fight Dillian Whyte. And people will say, oh yeah, but he went on to beat Dillian Whyte anyway. Yeah, 3 years later, after Dillian Whyte had been knocked out badly by Povetkin. But 2019, when Fury was still on the comeback trail, that could have been an interesting fight because Dillian Whyte still had a lot more left in the tank at that stage in his career. So it's easy to turn around and say, oh, but he beat him 3 years later. Well, yeah, he did, but that was not a peak Dillian Whyte. I'm not saying he would have beaten him in 2019, Dillian Whyte with Tyson Fury, if it had happened, but it might have been a much, much more competitive fight if it had happened at the time. And Fury has a history of this. You go back to 2012, 2013, and I know we can look back on that and say, well, in hindsight, this fighter didn't have a good career. David Price, who I'm talking about, at the time, Frank Maloney was trying to make that fight. I think there was 500 grand they were offering Tyson Fury. And again, you look back at that and you say, well, look at the career David Price had. Yeah, fine. But at the time, they were undefeated. And it wasn't David Price who stopped that fight from happening. It was Tyson Fury. Now, back then, that was just the start of things. We didn't know at the time that this would end up becoming a recurring thing where Tyson Fury would maybe take a risk, but would pick and choose his routes very carefully. Against Klitschko, he had no choice. You had to go to Dusseldorf, Germany. Well, you had to go to Germany, but you had to go to Germany. You had to adhere to Klitschko's rules. They were ridiculous rules that the Klitschkos had, back in the day. I mean, they were absolutely ridiculous, the contracts they were giving these fighters to fight and all of this, the tactics Vlad was doing. It was disgraceful. But he had to do that. In the comeback, he could have gone down the Joshua road. He went down the Wilder road. He could have had the immediate rematch with Deontay Wilder in 2019, but instead he went and fought Tom Schwartz. And this is really where you saw the start of what we got with Fury, of him. Some would argue that I seen Base make the case, and I can't really argue, a fraud, as simple as. He sells himself as the people's champion. What kind of people's champion charges pay-per-view, UK record price on pay-per-view, I'll have you add, at Christmas time, to fight Derek Chisora in a pointless trilogy fight? And here's the thing, right? I've actually seen this is the Fury fanboys in a nutshell. I've actually seen Fury fanboys on my channel try and claim that Fury Chisora 3 was a mandatory defense. Get the F out of here. It was not. His only mandatory defense of that title was against Dillian Whyte. Chisora was a voluntary defense. A ludicrous voluntary defense at a UK record price on pay-per-view coming into Christmas. People's champ. And when he was pushed on that fight by True Geordie, what did he do? He threw his toys out of the pram. The man who will call Usyk an ugly rabbit. The man who will say this, that and the other about all his contemporaries. He got asked one difficult question. One. And he threw his toys out of the pram. For someone who can dish it out, he certainly doesn't have much of a thick skin himself. But that was 2032. We'll get to that. It's 2019. He goes and was meant to fight. Well, he did fight Tom Schwartz, right? And again, the Fury fanboys don't like hearing about this one, right? Because they sold that fight as a world title fight. And I've had several Fury fanboys say that that's a lie. It wasn't a world title fight. And I've said, yes, it was. Go and look at the posters. It was sold as for the lineal title. And they'll be like, well, actually, yeah, technically it was. It's like you just said it wasn't. Right, you just literally said it wasn't, and now you're saying it was. Which one was it? The lineal title crap that they pulled, a fake title that can be defended in an 8-round or 10-rounder if it had to be. Right, it doesn't bring anything to the table. They sold that as a world title fight, and they also sold Tom Schwartz because he was highly ranked either with the WBO or on BoxRec. It was one or the other, but he was highly ranked. He was garbage. You could see that by his fight with Senad Gashi, and he had an easy time. Then he has another cherry pick against undefeated Otto Wallin. It nearly backfires. And Otto Wallin, at the time we thought, could this guy actually be a revelation? No, he's no revelation. He's not a particularly good heavyweight. He then finally goes and takes a year later. So he had a year. He could have had their Deontay Wilder rematch in 2019, dragged it out to 2020, finally has the rematch, wins it. All right. And do you remember in 2020, boxing behind closed doors, do you remember that Tyson Fury was in talks to actually have a fight behind closed doors? Lucas Brown was one of the names being talked about. Oh, yes, go look that up. Lucas Brown was one of the names. It didn't happen. Then we get into 2021. There's all this talk. Is he going to fight Anthony Joshua? He makes a video claiming that it's already done, knowing damn well. And also, not also knowing damn well that fight's not going to happen. But Stahl and Team Fury, or Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn thought that fight was going to happen. Joshua thought that fight was going to happen. They put loads of stuff on the back foot. And all of a sudden now they're like, oh crap, it's not happening. What do? We have to fight our mandatory. But what? They literally stalled that out. And he knew damn well that arbitration was going to ruin Deontay Wilder's favour. And then we get into 2022. And I'm saying this because the Fury fanboys will make out as though Tyson Fury is his wife, the driven snow, and that he's the people's champion. This doesn't really... The actions I'm talking about here, and none of this is lies, you can all back this up. This doesn't really come across as what a people's champion does now, does it? It doesn't come across as someone who has a lot of respect for his fans. And I say this to the Fury fans, because I'm not even finished yet. If a man is going to lie like this, lie as egregiously as this, gaslight as this, make you charge record pay-per-view prices for mismatches, does he really care about you guys if he's going to do that? And yous are worse, because by doing and paying for the likes of Chisora Fury 3, which no one wanted, you're enabling him. You know, these guys can get nowhere without enablers. You often hear that. If you have a spouse who's a serial cheat, well, of course he's going to be a serial cheat if the wife is letting him away with it. If he's getting caught and found out and the wife is like, it's grand, sure, who else am I going to get with? Who else am I going to be with? Well, you think he's just going to turn around and have a conscience and say, no, I'll stick with her? Of course he's not going to do it. If you let someone away with it, they're going to keep doing it. You're enabling them. And that's what the Fury fans are doing. But we get to 2021. He beats Deontay Wilder. We have a chance because Usyk has beat Joshua. Joshua is saying if the step-aside money is right, he'll take it. After a Wilder fight, Fury then goes and says he needs a tune-up fight. What kind of a tune-up fight did he? He just fought Deontay Wilder. Fights Dylan White, who was his only mandatory in 2022, for that matter. And then he fights Chisora, of all people. Why? And then we're talking, right, maybe now we're going to get Usyk Fury. There was talk of February. There was talk of March. There was talk of April at Wembley Stadium. And Fury kept moving the goalposts. Moving the goalposts. It was in 2022 where I think he made the decision, and it's backfired spectacularly to age Alexander Usyk out. To wait for Alexander Usyk to show decline. I reckon what they were hoping to do was that Usyk, because Usyk has always liked to be active. I reckon they were hoping that Usyk would have repeated fights back to back and that he would have more mandatories than he did. I.e., he would have had the Joshua rematch. He would have had the IBF mandatory come. He would have had the WBA mandatory come. So he would have had to defend these titles back to back to back. And even if he got through them, he would have got more damage. But that didn't happen. The IBF were lenient. The WBO were lenient. The WBA said, right, fight Dubois. Everyone else can go on the back foot. And everyone else waited. It helped in one sense that they couldn't really find an opponent for Hrgovic, so that got a push back. WBO interim champions kept losing, so they kept getting reset. So that kind of helped it out. But that, I think, is what Fury was hoping for. Fury then doesn't get the Usyk fight, moves the goalpost so much that we think the fight's off. Then he can't find an opponent to fight, even though you have the likes of Arslan Makhmadov, Frank Sanchez, Andy Ruiz, amongst others, mentioning Fury's name. And bear in mind, 3 years earlier, he sold Tom Schwartz as a pay-per-view. I think that was on pay-per-view as well. Pay-per-view fight is a heavyweight title fight. And they said that Tom Schwartz is highly ranked by the WBO, so that's why we're fighting him. Okay, Frank Warren went on TalkSport when they brought that up. Frank Sanchez, highly ranked by the WBO. What planet are you on? To be fair, he makes no money. How because Tom Schwartz made an absolute king's ransom, did he? Then, I'm ranting here, yeah, but it's just, I have to say it. Then, right, he announces he's going to fight Francis Ngannou because that's what the fans want. Really? I'm pretty sure the fans wanted Undisputed. He fights Francis Ngannou and he barely scrapes through Francis Ngannou. Barely. At which time, only about 2 months before, Usyk fights Daniel Dubois, looks fine in it, but gets dropped. Low blow. Tyson Fury makes it out. Dubois should have won. Sees a bit of slippage in him then. Sees the check that Turki Al-Sheikh wrote. And then decides, I'll take this fight. Thinking nothing will happen in the Francis Ngannou fight. The date is penciled in December the 23rd. What happens? Francis Ngannou fight is a lot tougher than we thought. Fury has to push the date back. And after that, he was like, what would you call it? He was like a wounded animal. Because when he was at these press conferences with Alexander Usyk, I've never seen this kind of anger from Tyson Fury with the name calling. He looked visibly angry. It was almost as if he was angry because he knew, right, the jig is almost up. And I got to keep this bravado going. I have to keep this poker face because I know I'm in a real fight now. And he was in a real fight last night and try as best he did. And he did do a decent job, I'll give him that. He had his good with the rounds he won them clear. But he ultimately took the L. And then the wounds for Fury fans is already open. They're so wide. I'm going to get some salt and put it in there. What does he do? He insinuates that Alexander Usyk only got the decision because of the conflict in his country. Well, why didn't Loma get the decision against Devin Haney? Why was it a split decision win for Alexander Usyk when it should have been unanimous against Anthony Joshua? That was the worst. That was such a scummy, horrendous thing to say. And again, the Fury fanboys, they're actually gone quiet on that one, but they will defend everything else. Fury is the way he is because you guys, the Fury fans, I'm not talking to the subscribers, the good subscribers, no. The Fury fans are enabling him. And that's the way it is, and that's the end of it. And as long as they keep enabling him, we're going to keep getting that. I don't think we're going to get it now, because obviously Fury's taken the L, and Happy New Year, I'd say he's going to need a lot of time to recover from that fight. But I'll be happy in one sense when I see him go. I like watching Fury the fighter. When he's fighting in the ring, he is fun to watch. But that was just everything the last few years. Even going back to his early career, the writing's been on the wall of what kind of guy this guy is. This is a guy with no morals. This is a guy who doesn't give a rat's furry ass about the fans who simp for Tyson Fury on a daily basis. He doesn't care. All he cares about is how many zeros are in his bank account. That's all he cares about. And people will enable him. And they'll still enable him even after this. Which is bizarre. But that is my rant for the day over. And I hope you enjoy it. If you could, I'd appreciate it if you'd smash the like button. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And people, I'll leave it there. Peace.